Venezuela, the collapse of a nation in the shadow of oil. Imagine a country with the largest oil reserves in the world. Trillions of dollars worth of wealth lie beneath its soil, yet its people struggle to find bread, medicine, and clean water. This is Venezuela. This video tells the story of how Venezuela went from being one of Latin America's richest countries to becoming one of the world's most severe crises. 1. Where is Venezuela, and why is it important? Venezuela is located in the north of South America. It has a coastline along the Caribbean Sea and holds a strategic position. But what truly makes Venezuela important is not its location, it's its oil. The country possesses the largest proven oil reserves in the world, even more than Saudi Arabia. For many years, when people thought of Venezuela, they thought of wealth, a strong middle class, the rising star of Latin America, the oil era, the golden years. In the mid-20th century, Venezuela rapidly grew rich with the discovery of oil. Between the 1950s and 1980s, oil exports brought massive foreign currency into the country. Caracas became one of Latin America's most modern cities. The purchasing power of the population surpassed that of many European countries. However, a major mistake was made. The national economy became almost entirely dependent on oil. Agriculture, industry, and domestic production were pushed into the background. Venezuela was rich, but it was a fragile kind of wealth. Third, Hugo Chavez and the rhetoric of revolution. In 1999, Hugo Chavez came onto the political stage. Chavez presented himself as the voice of the poor, a leader against US imperialism, a defender of social justice. Oil revenues were redirected toward free healthcare services, education programs, poor neighborhoods. In the early years, living conditions genuinely improved. As a result, Chavez gained strong public support. But behind the scenes, other things were happening. 4. Nationalization and economic mismanagement. During the Chavez era, private companies were nationalized. Foreign investors withdrew from the country. The state began intervening in nearly every sector. The national oil company, PDVSA, was filled with political appointees. Expertise was replaced by loyalty. The results were clear. Oil production declined, efficiency dropped, the economy steadily weakened. However, oil prices were high at the time, which temporarily concealed these problems. 5. Collapse. Oil prices fall. After 2014, global oil prices dropped sharply. That's when everything was exposed. Government revenues collapsed. Foreign debts could not be paid. The government began printing money. Venezuela entered a nightmare of hyperinflation. For example, a salary earned one day could barely buy a loaf of bread a week later. Money lost its value. People carried cash in bags. 6. Crisis in daily life. The economic collapse directly affected everyday life. Supermarket shelves were empty. Medicines became nearly impossible to find. Power and water outages became common. People waited for hours in bread lines, were forced to search for food in garbage, began thinking about leaving the country. Venezuela descended into one of the worst humanitarian crises of the modern era. 7. The US, sanctions and international tensions. The United States and several Western countries imposed heavy sanctions on Venezuela, citing unfair elections, human rights violations, the suppression of press freedom. These sanctions restricted oil exports, nearly cut off foreign currency inflows, deepened the economic collapse. The Venezuelan government responded by saying, "This crisis is the result of an economic war." The reality is this: the crisis was not caused by a single actor, but by years of accumulated mistakes. 8. One of the largest migrations in history. As the crisis worsened, people began to flee. To date, more than 7 million Venezuelans have left their country. This has become one of the largest migration waves in Latin American history. Families were torn apart, young people struggled to survive in foreign lands. 9. Venezuela today. Despite all the darkness, Venezuela still possesses Angel Falls, the highest waterfall in the world; some of the most beautiful Caribbean beaches; vast stretches of the Amazon rainforest. The problem is not a lack of resources. The problem is governance. Conclusion. Venezuela's story shows us one clear truth. What makes a country strong is not just wealth, but how that wealth is managed. Do you think Venezuela can rise again? Share your thoughts in the comments.